Federal data shows black adults are less likely than white adults to receive mental health treatment when they're experiencing similar symptoms.
During Black History Month, students and counselors at UW Green Bay are trying to change that, starting with a conversation about stigma and people of color.
Nearly 2/3 of Black adults who experience a mental illness don't receive treatment, according to the most recent data from the National Survey on Drug Use in Health. At UW Green Bay, a panel called Beyond Stigma is examining why people of color and first-generation students may hesitate to seek help.
In some communities, they feel like they can solve the issue within the family, and so they don't really like to speak out about these things. And so bringing the awareness, letting people know that this is an opportunity for them to get help and help is available really helps break that stigma down.
On a college campus, that hesitation can mix with the pressure of navigating adulthood for the first time.
We both have had some struggles in the past with anxiety and mental health, so I think just getting more coping strategies, mechanisms to kind of deal with that is super huge, and just hearing that other people are experiencing the same things we are, that we're not alone.
In Wisconsin, the DHS says suicide is also one of the leading causes of death for young adults, which makes support critical. The panel also tackles how cultural expectations can often make therapy feel taboo.
The Hispanic Latino community, a big thing that I hear from folks that eventually do come into therapy, they always tell me, I thought this was for locos, meaning like I thought this was for somebody that was crazy. And we get to break that down, like how does that feel and how has this experience kind of changed that perception for you?
Counselors say breaking stigma starts with conversation, but it also takes access and trust. If you or someone you know is struggling, you can call or text 988 to reach the suicide and crisis line.